Thank you for joining our Money Matters series, with today's topic being new considerations in personal insurance. I'm Bill Fryer. I'm Director of Insurance Services for First Citizens Bank, and I'd like to pause for a moment to allow you to review our disclosure statement. Today's topic revolves around personal property and casualty insurance and some new observations and considerations that this time of change we've all been living through has brought to the personal insurance world, and the potential impacts it could have on how each of us protects our livelihoods and our assets via insurance. So what are these new considerations? A number of items have been brought to light by the changes in our daily lives. Firstly, how we use our homes for work and for education, much more so than we ever have before. And while that's a side effect of the pandemic and shutdowns, there has also been some specific exposures to liabilities that have been brought about directly by COVID-19 itself. And these issues are not so much changes to your insurance programs. They're not actions or reactions that are being made by underwriters or claims adjusters or the availability of coverage, so much as they are things that have always been there, but simply and thankfully have never come into play because the situation never required it. But we know now that that has changed, and it's worth taking some time to re-examine and understand what potential implications could exist from how your insurance coverage views them and what impact this could have on the insurance policies that you have long used to protect your assets. As I mentioned, the areas we want to look at today are issues that are arising from increased exposures due to the fact that many of us are working the majority of our weeks and months from home. It has been a great way to allow flexibility and safety for employees to continue to work and be productive, but it's created some interesting side effects as well that both employees and employers need to be aware of. And then secondly, we want to take a look at the exposures that have been specifically caused by the COVID-19 virus and the liabilities that it can create for property owners. So just as a quick note here, please understand that these are simply examples of issues and items that we have seen to be emerging in this personal insurance world. And while they are real things, they do not in any way indicate how any insurance coverage would respond. That is always going to be specific to the insurance policies, the insurance carrier, and the situation. Our first topic is working from home. And in recent years, as technology has allowed more and more people to work remotely, we've seen issues arise where certain percentages of people's homes are being dedicated to business use. So everybody needs to understand that your homeowner's policy, when it's paying a claim, if it's determined that a business is being operated out of a home, it may remove that portion of the home's value from the claim payment, expecting it to be covered under business policy. This has typically in the past only impacted business owners, but it's also dependent on the kinds of activities that are taking place. Are other employees visiting? Are customers visiting? Or is inventory being stored on the premises? These all represent increased risks that traditional homeowners' policies, coverage, and cost really haven't contemplated. And while technology has enabled much of this, it's also increased the risk of cyber breaches and created very attractive targets for cyber criminals who can take advantage of more vulnerabilities that are likely to exist in private or home-based computer networks that are less secure than a business network, and then while these two networks are communicating with one another. So while the risk of this typically sits more on the business's shoulders, barring any kind of gross negligence by the employee, it's still an important consideration as we need to protect customer and other sensitive information. Many people have been using their personal autos more to run short errands for business purposes, since they may not be working in closer proximity to post offices, supply stores, or other suppliers. So make sure that your personal auto policy does not exclude this kind of activity or some amount of it, And be sure to ask your employer if their business auto policy will provide coverage for you during these activities as well. Some other questions that we're getting frequently are related to damaged equipment or injuries in the home and whether these are now business risks. If I drop my work computer, will my business cover that? While maybe not an insurance question, the answer is typically yes. And how has this impacted workers' compensation coverage? Well, the main way is that there are likely to be a lot more exposures in a home that a business cannot adequately control, but would still constitute a workers' compensation claim. So while cutting yourself while you're making your lunch probably wouldn't fall into this new category, it is likely that tripping and falling while you're getting up from your home desk during your work hours would be covered. So these are all new things that traditional insurance policies are trying to understand and work through as they structure and price policies for the future. Exposures directly caused by COVID-19 are also changing the insurance landscape for personal insurance and how property and liability coverages may be asked to respond. As I mentioned earlier, most of these coverage issues have been out there, but haven't been brought to light. The swine flu, another SARS virus, just like COVID-19, created a SARS virus exclusion in umbrella policies back about 10 years ago when insurance carriers saw this previously uncontemplated exposure raise its head. This exclusion remains in many umbrella or excess liability policies today, and it would apply to the current SARS virus, COVID-19. So this could cause issues if any liabilities that are alleged of you would exceed the coverage levels of your underlying policies. Your umbrella policy may not respond as you would expect it to. For primary or secondary residences, liability situations could occur if a guest to your home believes they contracted the COVID virus while they were visiting you and sought damages from you and your policy. Similarly, and maybe more likely, if you own rental homes, a few concerns we have seen are renters and guests suing for damages, believing the virus was contracted from or on your property. Business income exposures for rental income you may have lost due to travel restrictions and cancellations are also a consideration. Working to avoid claims and providing yourself with a strong defense is an important part of managing risk. Just like you would make your home as safe as possible for other injuries by maintaining your property, taking steps like making sure and documenting deep cleaning procedures are in place may not prevent issues completely, but they can help to lessen their impact on your assets. These are certainly some concerning things to think about, but being aware of them and taking the steps that are possible to avoid and mitigate them is important. Whether that's a specific preventive measure or simply understanding what our exposures are and our insurance policies better, it can be time well invested to protect your way of life and financial future. So use common sense in thinking about your risk. Take a look at your insurance policies another time, or maybe for the first time, and work with knowledgeable professionals who can provide insight and direction for your specific needs. Thanks again for your time today. We hope you found some value in this information, and we're always available for further conversations.